Oh, that's off now.
Oh, no, don't take the mayor's chair.
Oh, no, they're all. Then I'll just put it down and then I'll grab one. Yeah.
Do the staff stand up?
At council, they do. Oh, not staff, just councilors. Staff don't.
Oh, we don't?
Okay.
Currently.
That's okay.
On a strip of sandy soil lies a county called Norfolk. It's Ontario, south coast, you know, and it's surely not remote. If you pass through or spend a day or decide to call it home, you'll see why we love it here and are proud to call it our own. Norfolk, Norfolk, a southern county home. Norfolk, Norfolk, we know you can't go wrong with the friendly folk of Norfolk. You won't be a stranger long. Take in the small town atmosphere, be amazed at all that we grow. Like our kids that go and see the world and can't wait to return home. Drop a line in a placid lake or stroll along the shore. Take a tour on a peaceful country road and bound to be back for more. Of Norfolk, Norfolk, my southern county home. Norfolk, Norfolk, we know you can't go wrong with the friendly folk of Norfolk. You won't be a stranger long. With hard work we built a dream that only willing hands could do. It's on display at our fall fairs and at all the festivals too. Erie beaches, Carolinian forests, where the flower and dogwoods bloom. Patchwork fields and rolling hills, it's just a place for you. Norfolk, Norfolk, a southern county home. Norfolk, Norfolk, we know you can't go wrong with the friendly folk of Norfolk. You won't be a stranger long. Norfolk, 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 you won't be a stranger long. On a strip of sandy soil lies a county called Norfolk. It's Ontario, south coast, you know, and it's surely not remote. If you pass through or spend a day or decide to call it home, you'll see why we love it here and are proud to call it our own. Norfolk, Norfolk, a southern county home. Norfolk, Norfolk, we know you can't go wrong.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the council meeting for April 9th, 2019. I would like to remind everyone that our meetings are web streamed and televised, and for those in attendance, I would ask that you put your phone on silent mode. I would first of all like to welcome our new interim CAO, Harry Schlang, to his first Norfolk County meeting. So, Harry, if you wanted to say a few words.
Thank you, Your Worship, and it's indeed a privilege to serve council and members of the public.
You're-
I'm hoping to.
It's not on, I don't think.
Is it on now? Well, thank you, Mayor. It's a privilege to serve council and members of the public. Over the next couple weeks, I'm getting to meet with all councillors and really understand the community much better. I just today found a place to reside in the community to get to know all the neighborhoods and really hope to work with you as a team, with staff and council as a team, to advance some of your goals that you'd like to achieve for Norfolk. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Harry. As well, we are lucky to have Bill Jackson with us again today in the back as our volunteer. So thank you, Bill. First up today, we have some ceremonial activities, and for that I will call upon Sarah Page, our chief from Paramedic Services, to present Mr. Hurt with his retirement recognition. And just before Ms. Page gets started, I personally also would like to take this opportunity to thank Mr. Hurt for his long career here at Norfolk County on behalf of myself and the rest of council. Thank you, sir.
Good afternoon, Madam Mayor, Council, our new CEO, staff, and guests. I'm wondering if you remember where you were in 1973. It certainly was an interesting year where the Montreal Canadiens won the Stanley Cup, the historic Roe versus Wade decision was made in the U.S. Supreme Court, the first ever cell phone call was made, and Secretariat won the Triple Crown. It was also the year that Mr. Hurt started his career in emergency medical services for Norfolk County. Throughout his 45-year career, Bill has diligently served this community, starting at Green's Ambulance in Simcoe, moving up to a leadership position as a supervisor there, and then ending his career with us as a part of Norfolk County Paramedic Services. Our profession, as you can imagine, has changed immensely over the last 45 years, with the introduction of medical technology, equipment, and education to further enhance pre-hospital emergency care. Bill's career path moved him from an ambulance driver, where little in the way of medical treatment was offered but quick transportation to the hospital, to our current highly trained paramedics that provide medically advanced care with state-of-the-art equipment immediately upon arriving scene. A career of this longevity is not the norm in EMS services, as you can imagine. The physical, mental, and emotional challenges we face on a daily basis can take a great toll on our bodies, minds, and family life. Through it all, Bill has always managed to keep that smile on his face. Oh, he's smiling, all right. Phew, no. Using his calm demeanor, his unique sense of humor, and true compassion for his patients to put them at ease and give them the best possible treatment. He has supported his peers, was always willing to help out with any event we had, and has mentored a great many of us, including me, along our careers. Bill, we wish you all the best in your retirement and sincerely thank you for all you have done for this county, our service, and all the patients that you have touched the patients' lives over the span of your career. So congratulations.
Thank you.
So on behalf of the Council of the Corporation of Norfolk County, we extend you sincere congratulations on your retirement from Norfolk County. Your service and dedication over the years are recognized and applauded by all. Council extends its thanks and wishes you well in whatever endeavor you undertake in your retirement. Signed and sealed on the 31st day of March, 2019. Thank you. Did you want to say anything?
I want to say anything. Yes, I'd like to thank Norfolk County for providing a place for me to live, a place to work, and let me serve the people in Norfolk County and surrounding area one patient at a time. Thank you.
Okay, next on the agenda, first of all, we've got the approval of the agenda. I believe there's several changes to today's agenda, which you'll find on your blotters. Are there any other proposed changes? Councillor Martin.
Thank you, Mayor Chop. I was able to speak with our deputy clerk before the meeting today. There is two additional changes. The first is that I would like to ask council to allow Mr. Dave McPherson to provide a deputation today. This is a follow-up to his meeting at the Long Point Regional Conservation Authority, and he sent in a deputation. Unfortunately, it was denied by Clerk Services based on the premise that they believe it should be rather urgent. However, he has been a year and more than a year and a half in the making to get a permit through, and I think it would be appropriate to allow him to come in today, so that the deputation request is being passed out right now by Stephanie. And additionally, Adam from the Long Point and Hometown Brew Co. team has reached out, and he's looking for a council resolution that the clerk has told him to come forward to speak to council with regards to licensing. He does have some information already in the agenda today. I would just ask that that be coupled with the information that's already provided in the agenda, and Stephanie is apprised of this.
Thank you, Councillor Martin. Okay, so I have a motion then before me that the agenda be approved with the following changes. First edition is a discussion item, 6 Echo, that was at my request for just a simple downtown parking issue with the BIA. 8A will be Ron Hughes from the Port Dover Community Christmas Lunch regarding the Port Dover Community Center fee waiver. That is a motion respecting the Port Dover Christmas Luncheon that was originally published as item 14C. Then we would have Mr. Dave McPherson regarding his issuance of building permits. Then there's at 9 Alpha at 5 o'clock, actually that's going to take place, will be John Lee, who is our Poet Laureate for Life of Norfolk County, and he would like to read a poem for the Mayor's Poetry Challenge Month. And next would be 11J, which is Adam Van Passen on behalf of Long Point Eco Adventures and Turkey Point Mountain Bike Club. That's the request for a designation as a municipally significant event for their spring kicker, which is coming up very soon, actually on April the 14th. And I believe that's it, correct, for the changes? Or go right through, all the way through then?
Yeah, so we just have the,
Okay,
addition of the council
okay.
minutes.
Sorry, continuing on then, we've got 12 Alpha, which is the council minutes from the February 26th open and closed sessions. They were deferred from our last meeting as a result of a time issue. Closed sessions, item 18, that's a verbal update from myself, the county solicitor, and our general manager of health and social services regarding legal advice. 18 Bravo would be another verbal update from myself and General Manager of Community Services and General Manager Employee and Corporate Services. That's regarding the staff report for the Simcoe minor lacrosse request to be moved to Port Dover. And finally is a verbal update from our county solicitor regarding legal advice that's subject to solicitor-client privilege. Councillor Martin.
Thank you, Mayor Chop. I just would defer to our deputy clerk that 11K be added for, does that go without saying, the Hometown Brew Co. licensing? Okay, Mayor Chop didn't include that. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, do I have a mover and a seconder for all those changes? Councillor Martin and seconded by Councillor Rabbits. All those in favor? That's carried unanimously. Thanks. Okay, we're over now to our disclosure of pecuniary interest. Any disclosures of pecuniary interest this evening? Seeing none, we have our consent section of the agenda. I can't speak today for some reason. If any member of council wishes to discuss a consent item and/or ask questions upon it, please identify so now, and we will move it to the first item under staff report and discussion items. Are there any consent items that you wish to pull? Okay. In that case, I have a motion moved by Councillor Martin and seconded by Councillor Van Passen, I think, that the consent item proposed council calendar August 2019 to August 2020 be approved as presented. All those in favor? And that's carried unanimously. Presentations. We have one item under the presentations, and I'd like to invite Carrie Sinkowski to the podium for her presentation respecting living in Norfolk. A reminder, Ms. Sinkowski, I know you're familiar, but that the presentations are maximum 10 minutes in total. I'll give you a heads up.
Thank you. So my name is Carrie Sinkowski. I live in Port Dover, but I work for the Community Legal Clinic of Brant, Haldeman, and Norfolk, and I run a program in partnership with the Simcoe Library and a local grassroots initiative called RISE. Our program is called Speaker School. We run it in the basement boardroom. On Wednesdays, the third and fourth week of the month is a continued learning program. And then there's a 6-week program that we ask people to take first that we're actually starting again tomorrow, and we have 12 people registered in it. So this will be our second round of Speaker School here in Norfolk County. We focus on creative writing exercises, speaking drills, breathing techniques, trying to find that space in our mind and our lives to be able to bring our story out to the community and share it with other people. And so far, it's been working really well. There's some people in the room who've been privy to some of the speeches of the Speakers School, and it's gone way better than I ever anticipated, to be honest. And we're starting it in Brantford, because I also work in Brantford. We're starting it in Brantford in 2 weeks. So we wanted to share our learnings with council and with the community, and some of the work that we've been working on in our continued learning twice a month. So I brought with me 2 of the participants from our program who want to share the 2-minute speeches that they've been working on that is focused on what it's like to live in Norfolk County. We did have 4 people, but unfortunately 2 of them had things come up at the last minute and they weren't able to be here today. So but first we have Tamara.
Good afternoon. Thank you for taking time to hear me today. As Carrie said, I'm part of the Speakers School as well as part of RISE. And I wanted to make the community aware of my situation. I'm on a fixed income. Sometimes unexpected expenses come up and I have to go to the food bank. And this has been my experience with the food bank. I feel very conspicuous when entering. I feel shame for needing the food bank because of circumstances in my life. Some of the volunteers there are not very friendly or empathetic to the situation, not realizing that for one thing, they could be in the same place that I am. A typical visit, excuse me, a typical visit happens once a month. You need your proof of identity, proof of income, proof of your expenses, and this is for all the individuals that live in your home. You get a week's worth of food, and you get points for each section. But what I have found in my experiences in going there is that the bread that's supplied usually goes moldy in my cupboard within 2 to 3 days. The pastries that are provided are usually stale right from the time I take them off the rack. You have to choose between 6 eggs or no-name meat. You get 1 roll of toilet tissue. You get 1 ounce portion of shampoo, conditioner, laundry soap, and fabric softener. What I can't understand is why people in our community will donate products to the food bank to help those in need that they wouldn't feed to their own families. I know I'm poor, but because I'm poor doesn't mean I have to eat garbage. Thank you. I don't know if they're going to do questions.
No.
Okay.
Right. Thank you, Tamara. So part of the focus of Speaker School is finding those stories in Norfolk County that we don't hear every day. And unfortunately, we did have a much wider range between the 4 speakers, but just to give a sense of the things that we aren't seeing or hearing about or learning about. So that is one of the big focus and the reason why the Community Legal Clinic developed the program and invested that time. So Tamara's story is one example, the stories we hear every day through our clients. Kathy has another story that she would like to share. Kathy.
I'd like to introduce myself. Mahea Lekela Kochinahitea Namahaya, Nehecheke Elakwochitinia. My name is Sharon Diane Whitecloud, and I am a Cree Métis. I was born in 1950, and I was taken from my mother at birth, and I was placed in the system. In 1953, at age 3, I was adopted. At that time, my name was changed to Catherine May Scott, which is what I am called today. The papers were signed by the judge. Before I go on, I'd like you to consider the following. What is it like to be poor and homeless in Norfolk County? Where will my next meal come from when I don't have enough to feed my family? Where will my family put their heads down when we don't have a place to live? Low-income families or singles find it very hard to find a place to live at their income level. If you are lucky to find a place, the price in your price range, it is too small for your needs. When you find one in your needs, that's right, you guessed it, the price is above your budget. Never the two shall meet. Due to this, many find themselves without a home. When this happens, people become depressed. They get the feeling of hopelessness, anxiety, helplessness, displacement. In some cases, there are even thoughts of ending their lives. Then comes the feeling of failure to yourself and to your family. These are the true feelings of a homeless person. How do I know that? From September to November of 2018, I and my family found ourselves homeless in Simcoe. There are 1- and 2-bedroom places, yet the rents start at $1,000 or more a month. If you live on a low income, as many of us do, this is above what you get in, or it is more than half your income. Remember, you have more than rent to consider. You have gas, hydro, and water as well. There goes the money. How do you eat? Oh yeah, I forgot, you don't eat. There is food banks, yes, but you can only go once a month or every other month. The people on ODSP, OW, and low wages don't live. We just exist. Housing needs to be more affordable in Norfolk. It seems that it needs to fit the wants and the people in need. It shouldn't take being homeless to find a place to live. That doesn't always work for some. By the way, being homeless doesn't get you a place any faster on the Housing Commission. You see, I was told being homeless wasn't a priority to finding a place to live. Our housing system in Norfolk is failing the people it is supposed to help the most. With the government lifting the freeze on rent control, it makes things very hard for the people of low incomes. This will make it harder for them to keep what they have and to get a place. Is there affordable housing in Norfolk? No. For those people who are really in need of them, housing and affordability in Norfolk County don't seem to come together. In closing, I'd like you to think of this. The true measure of a society can be found in how it treats its most vulnerable people. How do you want to be measured? How do you want to be remembered? Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. Thank you, Tamara. And thank you all for listening and taking the time and for allowing us to share our learnings and our experiences with you. And if anyone would like to join us at a speaker school sometime, you're more than welcome to. We do bring guests in from time to time to share their own experiences and skills. So just email me and I can set that up for you. So thank you.
Thanks, Carrie. Any questions from counselors? Perfect. Thank you for coming. I have a motion before me moved by Councillor Van Passen and seconded by Councillor Martin that the presentation of Carrie Sinkowski regarding living in Norfolk be received as information. All those in favor? And that's carried. Okay, the Next item on the agenda is our first staff report, which is ECS 19-15, and that's regarding our benefit projection and renewal options that was deferred from the March 26th meeting. I believe, Mr. Suchenkov, you're going to present that report.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and Council. To my right is Trevor Meisner, and he's our Manager of Organizational Health and Wellness. And he'll introduce the report, and then we're both here to answer any questions you may have.
Norfolk County employee benefits consist of life insurance, long-term disability, or LTD, accidental death and dismemberment, or AD&D, extended health care, and dental. The benefit providers provide the coverage for and the administration of these benefits. The organization's benefits consultants are under contract by Norfolk County to negotiate the annual renewal with the providers to ensure the organization receives fair and competitive rates. Annually, our negotiated benefit renewal date is July 1st. After a recent analysis conducted by the benefits consultants in late February, it was recommended that Norfolk County goes to market for benefit providers due to a large projected increase in the areas of life insurance and long-term disability. In the staff report, there are 3 options provided to Council to direct staff pertaining to the upcoming benefit renewal. In an update to Council since the writing of the report, the benefit providers have verified that they would provide us an extension in the benefits renewals. However, this will come at a cost. Thank you to the staff that contributed to this report and Council for the consideration of this matter. I'm available for any questions from Council regarding the report.
Thank you, sir. Any questions from councillors? I have a question. So, Mr. Suchenkov, I asked you the other day, I believe you told me that the contract with Mosey & Mosey was entered into in January sometime, and that was for a 5-year contract. I'm just wondering, when we're looking at such a significant change, I guess maybe what the policy is from your department. I mean, this increase is substantial, and how council could be made aware of such a long-term, a 5-year contract kind of has locked us in through our entire term, so why that wouldn't have come to us beforehand?
Through you, Madam Mayor, the contract that we were speaking to is the benefits consultants contract. And that is a contract that we entered into the beginning of this year. Benefits consultants as a concept or as a service that Norfolk County procures has existed probably, as far as I can go back, probably more than 20 years, probably predates Norfolk County as an entity itself. So we pulled some of the original reports from maybe 2001, and there's benefits consultants being discussed with council and authorization given to procure those types of services. And essentially for the next, it hasn't been a full 20 years, but we're now in 2019, council receives yearly updates on renewals that talk about the negotiations that the consultants have been able to obtain on every single one of those renewals, allude to the specific companies that is doing the benefits consulting at the time. So as far as the 5-year agreement, that is for the benefits consulting in and of itself, not for the entire package of extended health benefits, which is what we're seeking direction on today from council.
Thank you. So I guess part of my concern is it was much like our liability insurance contract that and I'm wondering, maybe you can elaborate a little bit further. Are we looking at investigating perhaps different ways of offering these benefits and possibly working with CUPE to see if, are there some other options that we can explore, given that we're looking at a $500,000 increase?
So certainly that's part of the instructions that if council chooses to go with the first option, and go and have the benefits consultants go to market for us, we could provide them with instructions in the sense that the types of plans that we were looking to look at, as far as bargaining units are concerned, those types of benefits and entitlements are in existence within those collective agreements. So our ability to modify those through that type of a procurement process are limited, but certainly if we're talking about non-union groups or in wanting to look at some of those items, that's sort of directions that we would provide our benefits consultants to pursue if we wanted to go that way.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Sluchenko.
Through you, Mayor, I spoke to the general manager yesterday about this, and we strongly recommend option 1 so that we can mitigate those potential increases that have been talked about. So again, as well, the general manager has talked about this is for the benefits consultants, which we see is being done. We don't always have the expertise and the timeliness, so we strongly recommend option 1 to help mitigate those expected increases. And of course, we'll work together with the employees to see if there's some options in the future.
Okay, thank you, sir. I think, unless council has some further questions, Councillor Columbus?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to ask Mr. Soslenskov, why the huge increase, $279,500 in the areas of life insurance and long-term disability? Is that because we have a lot of employees on long-term disability, or can you share more information as to why it's such a huge jump?
I'll try to make some introductory statements in attempting to answer that question, and then I'm happy to have either of the two individuals tomorrow to jump in through you, Madam Mayor. When insurance companies come up with premiums, they use a variety of parameters that they look at, and sort of the report identifies as such. Sometimes when you have incidents of employees who pass away while still being employed for the county, and unfortunately we have had that happen with the municipality recently, that throws off, in some respects, from an insurance company's perspective, what our actual claims against the plan are, and causes those types of things to increase in general terms. Things like age analysis, risk, and all those sorts of things. I don't know if either Trevor or Nicole, if they feel that was a sufficient answer. I'm hoping that answers your question.
What about the long-term disability part of it?
So just to expand on what Mr. Sluchenkov has said, with the long-term disability, our experience, basically our claims over the last 5 years, that accounts for 69% of the cost of the premiums when they do the formula. So we have had an increase over the last year in terms of long-term disability, but the other 31% is also takes into consideration the demographics, as Mr. Sluchenkov mentioned, but also the entire business that the insurance provider does as well. They take that into consideration across the board.
Thank you, sir. Would you be just able to explain for me the waiver of premium reserves, what that's all about? The 39 waiver of premium reserves up by 39.9%, is that? It's.
Yes, in terms of the waiver of premium reserves, that's based on the individuals that are on long-term disability. So they have to keep a reserve for these people in terms of based on their age, because the younger they are, the larger the reserve is, because they could be covered conceivably up to age 65. So by the age of the individuals that are on LTD, that will increase the amount required in your reserves. So that's
So
can
we
give you
should
some
have had that
indication.
funding then?
No, that will also affect your premiums, because with the long-term disability, it's fully insured by the provider. So they take the full risk. So the only way that they can, charge us essentially is through the premiums after the fact. So they have to keep those reserves for the individuals that are on LTD, and if they're younger, then those reserves are higher, and you will see a reflection in higher rates, and that's one of the things that's contributed.
Because we don't have the reserves.
No, because they keep the reserves. They
okay.
take the full risk, right? They only get money from us through premiums, so they have to keep those into consideration for the individuals that are on long-term disability. I hope that explains it.
Okay, thank you, sir. I guess the only other comment that I have to make is that there was a statement right at the beginning of the second paragraph on page 15 at the end of February that a review took place that looked at utilization trends and employee demographics, and that's what resulted in an estimated increase or anticipated increase to the cost of the benefit program. I just think that one thing with this new council is a report like that might be driving so that we could understand better where those increases are coming from would have been, perhaps useful next time to maybe come to council as well so that we could have a look at that. But if there's no further questions, deferring to Mr. Schlang with option 1, if somebody would like to move that. Councillor Columbus? I'll read it out for you?
Yes, I'd move option 1.
Okay, so just before me, I have that staff report ECS 19-15 benefit projection and renewal options be received as information, and that council directs staff to proceed with option 1 to allow Mosey & Mosey to go to market on the corporation's behalf, and that council grants an exemption to the benefit marketing process from Norfolk County's purchasing policy ECS-02. Moved by Councillor Columbus and seconded by Councillor Rabbits. All those in favor? And that's carried unanimously. Okay, next is the staff report that was also deferred from the March 19th and 26th meetings. That's regarding the planning and user fee analysis. Mr. Johnson?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This particular report has been deferred. This report strictly deals with the arena fees as well as the planning fees. All the other fees related to Norfolk County were passed in December of 2018. Staff came back with a report to council on March 19th and had some subsequent information. And at that date, council directed staff to I believe council is going to come up with a motion at a later date for more information related to this report. And I believe tonight is the night where this motion will be presented. And if there's any questions related to the report, I'd be happy to answer them.
Okay, any questions before we get going? So I did have the opportunity to discuss the motion with Mr. Johnson and with Mr. Schlang ahead of time. I think there was some direction for us to prepare this of what specifically the direction was you wanted more detail as to what we wanted included in the analysis portion. So there is a motion before you that has been prepared and presented to Mr. Johnson earlier. If somebody would be prepared to move that motion. Okay, Councillor Martin, and seconded by Councillor Van Passen. Any discussions on the motion? Councillor Van Passen.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I looked through this again. I asked this question last time. I still find it hard to believe that it costs, $55, $65, $70 an hour more to run an arena in the summer than it does in the winter. So I'd like a little more detail on how we calculate this, and maybe we're just using a different system than what I'm used to, but I always looked at things, there's fixed costs and then the variable costs, and I just can't see how it costs more to run an arena unless you're trying to keep it cold all summer at the same temperature it is in the winter. It should cost less in the summertime than the winter, so maybe we got to look at those numbers a little better or a little differently.
Thank you, Councillor Van Passen. Anyone else? Councillor Columbus.
Excluding the ice, like I'm talking about rental of rooms and that type of thing, is that included in this motion? There is some concern that our arena rental rates are too high for some community functions.
I think in terms of it was to do a straight up profit and loss and show our, our revenue and expenses throughout all categories. So to do a comprehensive analysis that I think would also be beneficial, certainly for the Recreational Advisory Board as they move through with, doing a cost analysis on the hub and so on as well. So I think that this would encapsulate it, but certainly if you wanted to propose.
So after ice rental rates, can it just have something else added there that might just clarify that to include the community room and the rental of the facility for?
How about if we just strike the 4 ice rental rates with more details on fees?
Sure.
Councillor Martin, are you okay with that?
Yes, Mayor Chop, you took the words out of my mouth that I think that this might double for some helpful information for our RFAB group. And that's about it. Thank you.
Councillor Rabbits.
Thank you, Mayor Chop. My question through you to staff, and I was hoping for James Johnson actually possibly to comment on this one. I'm looking at FS 19-08, and I don't see any reference to it in the motion that's before us currently. And I was wondering if we are adopting those fees and those schedules that are included in the appendices of that report. I was pleased to see that we had rounded up some numbers, or rounded down rather, with some of the fees and the ease cash handling and some of the rates that were presented in that report I was amenable to. And I was hoping that, I don't know if we need to refer to it directly in the motion, but I would assume that that is what we're considering for adoption here through this motion. Would I be correct in that assumption?
Go ahead.
Through you, Madam Mayor, to Councillor Rabbits. So first of all, regarding the motion, I'd just like to make a comment that a lot of the information that's being asked on here, Councillor Martin sort of alluded to it, we would have to gather this information anyways for the RFAB project for a couple of the arenas, so it's information that we would gather anyway, so it's killing 2 birds with 1 stone, if you will. The other thing I'd like to mention, and I should have mentioned it before, is as staff, I would recommend that we do adopt the fees in report FS 19-08, simply because these rates, from a financial impact perspective, if we don't adopt these rates, then it will have an impact on our year-end results.
Councillor Martin.
Thank you, Mayor Choff. Through you to James and all of council, I guess. What position is that going to put council in if we're really trying to evaluate all of our facilities and our user fees with the end game of making recreation and rental spaces more affordable for our user groups? How do we go back later and maybe make a decrease once we've increased?
Through you, Madam Mayor, to Councillor Martin. So according to the motion, we would come back with reports in July. And my recommendation would be whatever we find out from those reports, we would include in our 2020 operating budget, only because we've already taken consideration these fee increases for the 2019 budget, and it's just to mitigate any deficits for 2019.
Councillor Huffman.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you to staff and council. I would just like to clarify my initial position on this issue regarding user fees. It's probably an unknown fact to many individuals that different sports clubs, they have a bank account, and there are funds that are raised, and they do have access to funds. My issue initially regarding this issue was when we have, excuse me, community service groups who are renting our facilities who are doing that to raise community funds, to raise funds that go directly back into the community. A prime example, and I know I've spoken of this before, is, for example, the Waterford Lions Club, where they have to pay prime rental rates on a Saturday to conduct their skate-a-thon that raises almost $10,000, and pay for a room rental during that time, and all of their funds are going directly back into our community. So that isn't my initial request. That was my initial thoughts and my hopes that these types of things we could come up with a solution to. I've been in many arenas and looked at many different fees, and we are competitive with many of those. It was a fact of trying to find a way to allow the dollars that are coming back into our community not to have to pass hands several times. So I just want to clarify that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Van Passen?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd be quite content to accept this report as information, accept the planning fee structure that's brought forward in here, and the other motion talks about getting a report back before the ice season really starts for the arena, which I'm assuming is the majority of the income for the arenas, that we can have that in place before the ice goes in this fall. We can implement the planning fees immediately, and we can move on from there.
Okay, so would you like to propose that as an amendment then to Councillor Martin's motion to? Would be the motion as it stood, additionally accepting the staff report as information and approving the planning fees?
I'd have to ask the clerk probably best. I think we probably do it as two separate motions. That first we accept the report as information, accept the planning part only, and then deal with Councillor Martin's motion separately.
Well, her motion is on the floor,
Yeah.
so the way that I see it, we'll deal with that motion first. So if there's any further discussion on the motion that was moved by Councillor Martin, seconded by Councillor Van Passen. Councillor Columbus.
Which one is it that we're actually dealing with?
The written one that you were provided.
The one we were provided with? Not the one in the report?
Correct.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. All those in favor? And that's carried unanimously. Okay, so Councillor Van Passen, I'll let you take it away.
And again, I will look to the deputy clerk on the wording on this, but to accept report FS 19-08 as information and accept the user fee rates for the planning department only.
Sorry, through the mayor, can you just repeat that one more time? So you're looking to receive report FS 1908 for information?
Yes.
And to also receive or approve the user fees for the planning department?
Do I have a seconder? Councillor Rabbits, any discussion on that motion? All those in favor? That's carried unanimously. Okay, next is staff report CS 19-06. That's the award of tender for grass cutting and trimming maintenance. Mr. Cridlin, is that you?
Yes, it is. I just need to
No problem.
get the page here. Thank you, man. Yes, through the mayor to county council. This is an award tender, which Community Service is bringing to you tonight in the report. A couple things to note. The grass cutting, Community Services over the past dozen years or so, we've really refined the process, and we do a lot of grass cutting for our friends Public Works next to us here, wastewater plants, museums, things like that. We found it's better to have one group that is good in cutting grass to take the lead, I'll say that. With that, I do have to point out, I believe you have another copy of the report. There were two very minor errors that we did not catch at the time of printing. So if we go to page 2 of 5 of the report, or page 56 of the agenda, and if we go down the list, if we look at number F, the Victoria Fire Station, the document, the original document talks about $2,928 for that place and to be completed by property, maintenance, and mobile wash. The correction, which the new report should read, is the price is $2,352, and it would be awarded to Steve Mussel Snow and Lawn Service. That was a mistake that was caught early on. And one more smaller error, if we go to page 60 of the, I guess this is the proposed ward summary, just the page behind the report. If you go down to number I, Langton Fire and EMS Station, the lowest bidder was $1,872. However, we had a tie. When there's a tie, there's a coin toss, and that should not say complete property maintenance or mobile wash. That should again say Steve Mussel Snow and Lawn Service. So no dollar value on that, but the first one is a little lower. So with those two clarifications made, the award of a tender is for 3 years and provisions for a 1+1+1. So that's something that after the 3 years are up, staff would negotiate with the present contractors to see if they are interested in carrying on with the lawn cutting or not. And also at that point, I believe it would be a cost of living would be the adjustment to these prices. So we would just see 3 years down the road whether the contractors were interested or Norfolk County was interested. The 6 years, if it goes well, is great for admin. We don't have to put this tender back out again. As you see, it's fairly in-depth. And I think with that, I'll turn it over to County Council for any questions they may have.
Thank you, sir. Any questions from councillors? Councillor Martin.
Thank you, Mayor Chop. Through you to Mr. Cridlin. Can you please explain to the public or anyone watching at home why we may go to a coin toss in that type of situation, or purchasing, why we would do that? I think it's important to note why we would do that.
Through the mayor to the councillor, I'll start, and maybe Mr. Sinshinkoff wants to chime in. Usually through purchasing and procurement, that is just a practice we have when you have a tie. It seems to be the fairness, can't speak tonight either, fairness way to do it. It takes any prejudice away from a staff member, picking a company that they may want to work for with a coin. Is just, it's a roll of the dice.
Thank you. I guess the point I was trying to get at is that the county's not in a position to then go back to one of these bidders and say, hey, can you offer us a lower price? That doing the coin toss is a very above board way to ensure that, that's what I was trying to get at, that we're not just deciding who gets our business with a coin toss, that there are processes
Councillor,
that...
very well said, much better than I stated. So yes, you're 100% correct.
Thank you, Mr. Cridlin. And in the wording here, let me find my right paperwork, in the recommendations, it notes that there is a renewal option. Is that option brought forward to council, or is this something that is decided and council is not made aware of?
Through the mayor of the councillor. That's a very good question. I'm going to reach out here and I can get clarification. I believe that the tender was drawn up that it would not come back to council for the additional 3 years, but there are language in the contract. I think that, the increase could not go over the standard cost of living and things like that. But that is a point of clarification. I don't have the answer for that.
Any further questions, Councillor Van Pasten?
I don't know if it's a question or more a comment, but I like this concept of the longer-term contracts with these type of contractors. There's a lot of investment on their part for equipment and making sure they have the staffing in place. And when they know that they've got this contract for 3 years and potentially 4 years, I'm sure they build that into their price and they can reduce their costs a little bit, knowing they have a longer payback for all the materials and equipment that they got to buy. And I'm hoping that we see more of this type of contracts that's longer terms rather than just 1 year and 1 year and 1 year.
Thank you. Anyone else? Councillor Taylor?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through you to Mr. Cridland. In the executive summary on the end of the first paragraph, when you refer to private interests, is that strictly referring to the companies we contract out to, or is that also talking about some of the lands that we cut grass on? Thank you.
Through the mayor to the councillor. Yes, when it says That term is, I did ask question staff on that. That is, we cut a little bit of grass for the Conservation Authority. Makes sense when we have a park next to their land sort of thing. So we do work hand in hand with them. So that clause is covering that off. Conservation Authority, some MNRF property is that.
And one more through you, Madam Mayor. When we're looking at the lowest bidder, that's referring to their entire 3-year bid on financial services comments, right? That's their 3-year bid?
Through the mayor of the councilor, that is correct.
I had a couple people reach out to me throughout the process and were asking that, so hopefully they're watching right now and had that clarified.
It's a combination of year 1, year 2, year 3 to get the lowest bid for the 3 years.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions? Motion moved by Councillor Michelle and seconded by Councillor Huffman that CS 19-06 award of tender grass cutting and trimming maintenance 2019 through 2021 be received as information, and the rest of the wording as printed on page 59 of your agenda. Any further discussion? All those in favor? That's carried unanimously. Next is Mr. Suchenko's report, ECS 19-19, which is the extension of the Complaints and Compliance Specialist position.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So the one thing I'd like to say before I throw it over to our Director of HR, Aaron Anderson, to speak to the report, I want to bring to Council's attention through you, Madam Mayor, that we also have an ECS companion report that's in closed session. So depending on the nature of Council's request, Council will also have an opportunity to ask some of those questions in Council, depending on the sensitivity of the questions or how detailed you want to have those conversations. So just wanted to throw that out there before we get to it. And now I'll throw it over to Aaron.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor and Council. The Complaints and Compliance Specialist position focuses on conducting internal investigations in order to ensure compliance with the Occupational Health and Safety Act, Bill 168, and our Norfolk County Policy HR 04, Respectful Workplace and Violence Prevention Policy. Under these acts and policies, Norfolk County is required to provide a working and service environment that's free from harassment and discrimination, and to foster a positive culture where employees' physical and psychological wellness is a priority. The report before you identifies the ongoing need for internal investigations, as well as the need to update and ensure compliance with human resources and other corporate policies. And as a result, staff are seeking to extend the current contract of the Complaints and Compliance Specialist position for an additional 12-month period from April 2019 to April 2020. And staff are recommending that this position be funded from the WSIB Reserve Fund. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. If we didn't have this position, how would the work get handled? Can you explain that?
Through the mayor, it depends. It depends on the type of investigation, the type of complaint that comes forward. It may be internal staff that look after that, or we contract it out and we would hire an external investigator to oversee the matter. Thank you. Councillor Huffman?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, through you to the staff. So just to clarify, I'm kind of piggybacking on what Councillor Columbus has said, because I was curious about that as well. So prior to this, what was there? This was in place, obviously, and it's now expired, and we're looking to extend it a year, correct? Okay. Prior to this past year, was it in place? Like, is this just something that we keep putting forth a request for an extension?
Through you, Madam Mayor, to go back, I'd have to provide sort of a few years' worth of history in that, and allude to some previous reports that were provided to Council 2-3 years ago. There was a position in existence within the Human Resources Department titled loosely Manager of Strategic HR Strategic Initiatives. And what we found in application and experience, that the need to conduct these investigations was so great that the position or the individual doing it was essentially consumed of just running investigations and not having an opportunity to do a lot of the other aspects. And so one of the first things that I did in my tenure here is bring a report to council asking for this position to be extended because the need still existed. And in our analysis, the cost-benefit analysis was that we would save more money doing it internally than having to kick out at the volumes that we were having to do these investigations. But the other thing we did is we lowered the pay band of the position as a result of the fact that it now focused on a specific skill set as opposed to a broad sense, and removed that manager from a sort of organizational structure perspective to be essentially a specialist doing a very specific type of work. I hope that answers the question.
Thank you.
Councillor Van Passen and Councillor Rabbits.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I had some discussions with Mr. Slichankov over this position, and he has assured me that while this position is required for that specific task, it's not like they only use the individual for that they tend to be very task-oriented on other items that are required. But I'm assuming this is coming to council because of our budget discussions where we sort of put the freeze on filling in some of these positions, and now that we have an interim CAO in place, do we let the interim CEO do his job and sort of step back and allow staff to carry on? And you know, I'd like to hear his recommendation on how to move forward, if I could. Thank you.
Through you, Mayor, to the councillor. When I looked at this role, unfortunately, we're seeing this in the workplaces everywhere, that it's a valuable role for employees to know there is someone they can do, a go-to person, specialist, in case they're seeing some non-compliant matters or some bullying in the workplace. It is a very important role. I would say that, you know, at this point in time, to fund it the way they've requested is a good one, and allows us maybe to look at that for the 2020 budget, so we're not always coming every year for renewal or looking at some other efficiencies. But I think what they're proposing now to cover it with the healthy WSIB reserve is a good one. Keep it on contract to allow us to look at the organization, and it is positive to move forward as per the staff recommendation.
Further questions, Councillor Rabbits?
Thank you, Mayor Chop, and through you to Mr. Sluchenkov. I wanted to ask about the 12-month duration, and so the intent of your recommendation, I would assume, is that we're going to be reviewing this roughly in a year's time and seeing that if it's borne the fruit that we're hoping. It seems that this is a needed position, and my thought process is, you know, why aren't we recruiting or retaining someone for the long term if this is something that we're going to need post, 12 months from now, that we'd be having the same conversation again. But if we're to have new information brought forward, maybe it is more pertinent to go through the contract phase so we have an opportunity to debrief to see if there are any other options of providing this service. It does seem like it's a service that does need to be provided. I'm just questioning whether or not we do want to offer this on a contract basis for 12 months. We do have some challenges in recruiting and attaining people for different positions in Norfolk County, and offering a contract, that's a short stint, but often, and Harry will appreciate this, it's an opportunity for that person to demonstrate their worth and sort of get their foot in the door, so to speak. I imagine that the incumbent would be applying for that next offer, should it be forthcoming, and should that be the direction of council. But I was just hoping for a general comment on the length of the contract and why that is 12 months is what you're recommending.
And so there's two components, and I think Councillor Van Passen, through you, Madam Mayor, to Councillor Rabbits, the question surrounding the timelines and when the contract was originally approved by council. So it was sort of an approval looking at March, April as a start date. So this is kind of the finalizing the existing incumbent's contract is due to expire at the end of this week. And so the other component is some of the information you've seen in closed session was also something that the previous council had requested to see as part of their analysis. And I think sometimes you hope that things get better as opposed to they get worse. So when I initially started my employment with the corporation, the initial 12 months was let's see what whether the history trends are going to continue in terms of whether the need is going to continue to exist, as opposed to ask for something or a solution on a more permanent basis without having the opportunity to look at that particular experience. And then the secondary piece, and specifically the turn, or more importantly in the current scenario, I think the 12-month contract, and my conversations with the CAO will give certainly him and the organization an opportunity to look at the way the work is done and what is the best way to do this type of work, but still continue for that 12 months so we have that ongoing service being delivered and we're meeting our legislative requirements in that regard.
Thank you. Any further questions? Would you prefer, Mr. Soshenkov, to move in close to finish this item, or are we okay just for a 5-minute break? Okay. If that's okay, then we'll pause on this issue and we'll just touch on the BIA item that I wanted to bring up, and then we'll move into close for all of the items. The BIA item was quite simple. I had a with the BIA issue. Okay, so the next item was just in regards to parking in downtown Simcoe, and I'm just wondering if perhaps we might be able to get some staff perspective or maybe some direction from council or staff report to come back. But I was approached a couple days ago. A gentleman arrived here at the building, and he's been in business for a year in downtown Simcoe. He started a pizza business. And the large majority of his business is deliveries. And so he's been receiving, I believe he told me he's had $300 plus in parking tickets as he parks his delivery vehicle in front of his building. I know in some municipalities there are spots that are, sometimes reserved specifically for, if it's a delivery business. So just that delivery car that's coming in and out could be parked there without being ticketed. And so I'm just kind of wanting to get council's feedback on that issue, so perhaps we can move something along. Otherwise, he's saying, business is tough enough as it is in Simcoe, and if he's going to have to keep paying a couple $100 in parking tickets all the time, then he's looking at moving out of downtown Simcoe. And I think that that's the last thing that we want to see as we're trying to encourage business there. So, Mr. Taylor, maybe I might be able to get your feedback, because I believe you spoke with him as well.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I did speak with him, and actually over the weekend I was contacted by a couple other downtown merchants that have a similar problem where they park their car, wind up with tickets, or some it's, it adds up quite quickly. I know parking is a major issue downtown. People are on both sides of the spectrum of how strongly they want enforcement, but I think the route of going business-specific parking spaces for some of the companies that do use spots like that, where it would strictly be them parking out front, would be a good way to go. And I actually would like to know if we could have staff perspective on that as well, like what the process to get that started would be.
Councillor Taylor for your comments. Councillor Van Pass, and then Councillor Martin.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As council probably aware, there's a certain councillor who got a parking ticket while he was attending a council meeting not too long ago. And I take it members of the public are watching our council meetings, because I've received numerous complaints about parking tickets in downtown Simcoe. The most came from our tenant at Rumors here, and I defer to the ladies on this. I didn't realize it took more than 2 hours to get your hair done and all those things. And there's one individual who's got 4 parking tickets already while they were getting their hair done at our tenant's nice facility right here. And I cruised around a little bit around town when I was bored one day, trying to find out where I'm supposed to park. The only spots that I have found are along the river down at the end where the old liquor store was, or the arena parking lot, because otherwise it's all 2-hour parking. Council meetings tend to take more than 2 hours, and you probably wouldn't give me leave to go move my vehicle every 2 hours. The ticket for that is $20. Parking on private property, because I wouldn't want to ask anybody if they've parked in the mall parking lot across the road, which is private property. That's a $30 fine to park there. Parking at RAB is private property. That would be a $30 fine if you parked there and walked over here. So I would be quite happy to hear some solutions to other people's dilemmas as well. So, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Van Passing. Councillor Martin.
Thank you, Mayor Chop. I agree that there's a bit of a parking crisis going on, and there's certainly one in my ward as well. Instead of floating an idea out to council, instead of taking an existing space and reserving it for only certain individuals, whether they're business or delivery trucks, which may end up with an additional shortage, I wonder if there's some kind of window permit that we could use, that a delivery truck is able to park here, and then that spot is not necessarily lost to someone who's looking to come down and do some shopping.
That's a great idea. Councillor Taylor?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through you to council. I was actually about to bring that up. I had another business owner downtown mention that she's had several people get ticketed as they've stayed in her bakery, and is there a way that we can get a window permit that if I know the customer stays for a long time, to hand over to them just to go run and put in their window, just so they know that the person's a patron downtown and not anyone else. But she also said that in this one particular ticket, there were 9 spots around the individual's car that were open. They just happened to stay there over 2 hours. And she also asked if there's any way we could sort of limit, if everything's full, then we start ticketing, but if there's ample parking in that particular area, maybe a bit more leniency.
Councillor Huffman?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, through you. I just want to get clarification. So you were speaking about like the business. So for example, the pizza business owner having something in his window of his vehicle. Okay, so I just want to clarify. So what you were saying was completely different in a way. You were talking about an actual customer of a business? Okay. I just want to clarify that I would tend to agree with Councillor Martin that it would be business owner specific. That would be my thought. And I guess my other one comment I wanted to make was it would be nice if we could invest in some signage that states that there is free parking at the lot where the former LCBO was downtown. There seems to be a lack of direction as to where some free parking is. My other question is, has anyone had any feedback from bylaw regarding this issue?
Well, this is a little bit where kind of why I'm hoping for a report to come to council, because I'm a little bit confused myself as to my understanding the BIA does the ticketing for downtown, and so, but I believe we still technically set the parameters for the parking. So I'm just not sure who's doing what in what role, so I'll let Ms. Dusling touch on that.
Sure. To you, Mayor Chop and the council, I can confirm that Norfolk County does have a parking bylaw. It is Norfolk County's bylaw. Both the BIA and Norfolk County do issue parking tickets. The BIA has a parking commissioner. They've laid 76 parking tickets as of January 1st in our downtown area, and Norfolk County bylaw officer has laid 102 parking tickets as of January 1st. That gives you a little bit of context. And DCS staff are always happy to bring back a report and give you more information and options for the future.
I think some options would be great. I mean, I think Ryan was, or Councillor Taylor, rather, my apologies, was kind of a hybrid of Councillor Martin's solution where with the hair salon, if they often have customers that are there for longer than 2 hours, they get a couple of the permits that those customers might be able to throw in their window simply while they're getting their hair done. Just because, I mean, our businesses are already having a tough enough time in the downtown, and if people keep getting tickets in the downtown core when they go to, shop at these businesses or get their hair done downtown, well, they're going to start going to a hair salon that's not in downtown. And as we're looking to promote our downtown, we've got to change something here. It's not working. Councillor Michele.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Most of the concerns appear to me to be revolving around time. So I'm wondering, instead of, giving this person a special pass and that person gets a special permit, and then somebody else gets some other special, direction, why don't we just change the limit to 4 hours? And that probably will take care of almost every one of these concerns. Thank you.
Councillor Huffman.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you to staff, in particular, Pam. The BIA, okay, first off, I must say I'm extremely confused to know that we have the BIA issuing tickets and bylaw issuing tickets. That seems a little redundant to me. So that, to me, would be something that we should probably be looking at in terms of efficiencies and time management. My other concern, or not concern, sorry, my other question is, the BIA tickets that are issued, where does, and the bylaw tickets, where does all the money go? Or is it funded, is it streamed to the same spot, or can someone clarify that for me?
Through council to Mayor Huffman, I see Jim McGimpsey, our BIA chair, in the gallery. He may be able to answer some of those questions for you directly about the BIA and what they do and how they do their parking. In terms of where that money goes, it does come directly back to the county on both ends. Oh, Mr. McGimpsey may be able to correct me.
McGimpsey, could we just get you to speak into the microphone so it's recorded? Yep. Thanks.
Through the mayor, the revenue that's generated through the commissioner from the BIA's office stays with the BIA. It's just the revenue that comes from the collection of the bylaw from the bylaw officer that stays with the county.
Thank you, sir. Okay, so we have a full agenda this evening. I'm just wondering if it was some good brainstorming to get going, if staff might be directed at this point to prepare a report, and then we'll carry on some further discussion in the future if that's possible. I see hands still going. So, Mr. McGimpsey, Councillor Martin, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Chop. That was exactly where I was heading with that, but wondering, I don't want to narrow it down. Is there some type of previous parking study that's been done in downtown Simcoe recently? Additionally, if I can jump in on this train in Port Dover, and all of that could be brought back at the same time?
Through to Mayor Chop and Councillor Martin, I'm just conversing with my colleague Chris Baird here from his history in DCS. He's outlined that there was quite a bit of research done about 8 to 10 years ago in terms of parking in downtown. So perhaps we can dig that out, provide what we have today, and report back to council with some options. And we're happy to do that along with the BIA in partnering that report.
And all I was going to contribute is that although I'm not staff, I'm happy to participate in the process. I live and breathe this downtown every day, so I'm very familiar with the challenges our businesses face. I'm familiar with the challenges that our residents are facing in coming to our downtown. And I do believe that there's going to be some news regarding bylaw and parking specifically with regards to the BIA's role in that moving forward. I'm not sure about the timing, but I will preemptively say that my commissioner is retiring. So it's timely that we're talking about parking, and I welcome the opportunity to work with staff to find a solution for our businesses downtown. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, sir. Councillor Roberts, new to add, or can we move on with the motion?
If I may, Mayor Chop, thank you. I would like, in addition, to look at how the BIA is operating in Delhi, just to see if they have a different take on it, or perhaps if they are offering a similar service. And also with regards to Port Dover, I know that the Board of Trade has been very vocal in their advocacy for more parking or improved services. And I was wondering if they our ticketing as well. They operate as a different type of body. They're a little different than BIA, right? And I think it'd be worthwhile if maybe we could reach out to both our BIAs and our Board of Trade just to see what their perspective is on parking and the ticketing issue specifically. I think that's what we're looking for to come back to council in the form of a staff report.
Okay, so Mr. Schlang just had a suggestion for me. Would it be possible for us to first kind of narrow this down and let's start with Simcoe, see what we can do to fix here, and then, you know, let's look at Port Dover and let's look at Delhi, and just to break down this task a little bit more rather than it's so big and we're going to be delayed months. And I think that it's important for the summertime to get going for downtown Simcoe at the very least. Is that possible? In June? Okay. Okay, so I have a motion then, if somebody's willing to move this, that staff be directed to investigate options respecting downtown BIA parking and report back to council the beginning of June. Moved by Councillor Taylor, seconded by Councillor Ravitz. All those in favor? That's carried unanimously. Thank you.
So we have the deputation coming from 5:30 for 4:30, but Yakov had something to add if you wanted to then go into closed session just for his companion report. Otherwise, staff would have to stay until after, to the very, very end. You could just deal with that one. He had something to add if you want.
In open session? Okay, Mr. Suchenkov, I understand you had something further to add to your report.
Not to my report, through you, Madam Mayor. Councillor Martin expectantly looked at me when we were talking about the tie break and the coin toss and coin toss. I got that this time around. I'm very proud of myself there. And so I took a moment and went back and looked at our purchasing procedures, so I can actually provide additional information so you understand how that works. So the Director of Corporate Support Services sends a written request to the tied bidders informing them to attend and observe a coin toss in order to break the tie, or in the event of a multi-way tie, a numerical draw to be completed. All attendees observing the toss of the coin shall sign an attendance sheet. The bidder whose submission is date stamped the earliest will call the draw, and bidders will request to sign a tie bid declaration form agreeing to abide by the results and waive any legal rights that they may have against the Corporation of Norfolk County. So just wanted to provide a little bit more, and I'm sorry I didn't have that right at the get-go.
Thanks, Mr. Suchenkov. I think the best thing to do right now, it's almost 20 after 4. If we could move into closed session just to deal with the HR issue, and then we'll return because we've got a deputation at 4:30, and that allows Aaron to go home afterwards. So if I could have a motion to move that council move into closed session at 4:20 p.m. to discuss matters pursuant to sections 239 2 Bravo of the Municipal Act 2001 as the subject matter pertains to personal matters about an identifiable individual. Councillor Ravitz, and seconded by Councillor Michele. All those in favor? Carried.
On a strip of sandy soil lies a county called Norfolk. It's Ontario, south coast, you know, and it's surely not remote. If you pass through or spend a day or decide to call it home, you'll see why we love it here and are proud to call it our own. Norfolk, Norfolk, a southern county home. Norfolk, Norfolk, we know you can't go wrong with the friendly folk of Norfolk. You won't be a stranger long. Take in the small town atmosphere, be amazed at all that we grow. Like our kids that go and see the world and can't wait to return home. Drop a line in a placid lake or stroll along the shore. Take a tour on a peaceful country road and bound to be back for more. Of Norfolk, Norfolk, my Southern County home. Norfolk, Norfolk, we know you can't go wrong with a friendly hard work, we built a dream that only willing hands could do. It's on display at our fall fairs and at all the festivals too. Erie beaches, Carolinian forests, where the flower and dogwoods bloom. Patchwork fields and rolling hills, it's just the place for you. Norfolk, Norfolk, a southern county home. Norfolk, Norfolk, we know you can't go wrong with the friendly folk of Norfolk. You won't be a stranger along. Norfolk, 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 you won't be a stranger along. On a strip of sandy soil lies a county called Norfolk. It's Ontario, south coast, you know, and it's surely not remote. If you pass through or spend a day or decide to call it home, you'll see why we love it here and are proud to call it our own. Norfolk, Norfolk, a southern county home. Norfolk, Norfolk, we know you can't go wrong with the friendly folk of Norfolk. You won't be a stranger along. Take in the small town atmosphere, be amazed at all that we grow. Like our kids that go and see the world and can't wait to return home. Drop a line in a placid lake or stroll along the shore. Take a tour on a peaceful country road and bound to be back for more. Of Norfolk, Norfolk, my southern county home. Norfolk, Norfolk, we know you can't go wrong with the friendly folk of Norfolk. You won't be a stranger along. With hard work, we built a dream that only willing hands could do. It's on display at our fall fairs and at all the festivals too. Erie beaches, Carolinian forests, where the flower and dogwoods bloom. Patchwork fields and rolling hills, it's just the place for you. Norfolk, Norfolk, a southern county home. Norfolk, Norfolk, we know you can't go wrong with the friendly folk of Norfolk. You won't be a stranger along. Norfolk, 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 you won't be a stranger along. On a strip of sandy soil lies a county called Norfolk. It's Ontario, south coast, you know, and it's surely not remote. If you pass through or spend a day or decide to call it home, you'll see why we love it here and are proud to call it our own. Norfolk, Norfolk, a southern county home. Norfolk, Norfolk, we know you can't go wrong with the friendly folk of Norfolk. You won't be a stranger along. Take in the small town atmosphere, be amazed at all that we grow. like our kids that go and see the world and can't wait to return home. Drop a line in a placid lake or stroll along the shore. Take a tour on a peaceful country road and bound to be back for more. Of North.
I didn't know if I should put a pot on.
Please.
On a strip of sandy soil lies a county called Norfolk. It's Ontario's south coast, you know, and it's surely not remote. If you pass through or spend a day or decide to call it home, you'll see why we love it here and are proud to call it our own. Norfolk, Norfolk, a southern county home. Norfolk, Norfolk, Take in the small town atmosphere, be amazed at all that we grow. Like our kids that go and see the world and can't wait to return home. Drop a line in a placid lake or stroll along the shore. Take a tour on a peaceful country road and bound to be back for more. Of Norfolk, Norfolk, my Southern County home. Norfolk, Norfolk, we know you can't go wrong with the friendly folk of Norfolk. You won't be a stranger long. With hard work, we built a dream that only willing hands could do. It's on display at our fall fairs and at all the festivals too. Erie beaches, Carolinian forests, where the flower and dogwoods bloom. Patchwork fields and rolling hills, it's just the place for you. Norfolk, Norfolk, a Southern County home. Norfolk, Norfolk, we know you can't go wrong with the friendly folk of Norfolk. You won't be a stranger along. Norfolk, 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 you won't be a stranger along. On a strip of sandy soil lies a county called Norfolk. It's Ontario, south coast, you know, and it's surely not remote.
Okay, let's get started again. So first I have a motion moved by Councillor Michelli, and if I could have a seconder since Councillor Huffman's not here. Councillor Geisens, that's, oh, sorry. The council adjourned the closed session at 4:34 p.m. and reconvene in open session. All those in favor? That's carried. Next, a motion moved by Councillor Michelli that staff report ECS 19-19, that's the extension of complaints and compliance specialist position, be received as information, and that council authorize the extension of the complaints and compliance specialist position for a contract period of 12 months commencing in April 2019, and further that funding for the position be provided from the WSIB Reserve Fund. If I could have a seconder. Councillor Rabbits. All those in favor? And that's carried. Thanks, Aaron. Next, we have a deputation. I'd like to invite Ron Hughes to the podium to speak to his deputation respecting the Port Dover Community Centre fee waiver. A reminder, sir, you have 10 minutes. I'll give you a heads up if you look like you're getting close. I was told you were going to be quick.
The only reason that I came here today about this is a lot of you are new to the council and probably don't know what we're doing on Christmas Day in Port Dover. We started in 2013. What we do is we provide a full Christmas dinner, luncheon for anybody in Norfolk County. The last 2 years, Norfolk County has waived the rental fees in the Port Dover Community Center for us. We've had a year-to-year increase of people. Last year, we were in excess of 200 people that we served meals to. It's totally voluntary, and all we're doing is asking again for your help. And you are recognized on our flyer as one of our sponsors. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Questions for the deputation? Oh, I think you have a question from Councillor Martin. Oh, no question. Okay, thank you. Motion then moved by Councillor Martin, seconded by Councillor Michelli, that the deputation by Ron Hughes respecting the Port Dover Community Centre fee waiver be received as information. All those in favor? And that's carried. And next we will move on to Councillor Martin.
Thank you, Mayor Chop. I do have a motion to go. Would it be appropriate to follow up
I
right
was
now?
just going to read it for you.
Oh,
but
sorry.
No, take it away.
Thought you were switching gears there. I have a motion that I've brought forward that it was in our agenda package. I can read it out to you. Whereas the Port Dover Christmas Luncheon is a successful and well-attended annual community event, and whereas Norfolk County Council approved the usage of the Port Dover Community Hall for the 2018 Christmas Luncheon and waived all associated rental fees, therefore be it resolved that Norfolk County Council approve the usage of the Port Dover Community Hall on December 24th, 5th, and 6th of 2019, and the Port Dover Community Christmas Luncheon, for the Community Christmas Luncheon, and that a grant in the amount of the rental rate be charged to the mayor and council grant budgets. And I would like to speak to that if there's a seconder.
Councillor Van Passen.
I'd be very happy to second that motion, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Go ahead, Councillor Martin.
Thank you, Councillor Van Passen. This comes forward in a formal motion to council because we do need a resolution to go ahead and do this for this group. But I thought it was also important to have Mr. Hughes come along and join us today because I am aware that council is looking at revisiting how we are servicing, the rental rates that our community groups are using and service clubs are using. But I would hate for that to halt any community events that are going on, and with over 200 people served at this Christmas luncheon, I thought that we could go ahead and push this through and continue to revisit how we go forward with this in the future. Thank you.
Councillor Van Passen.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. All the business end of it aside, previously this meeting we had a couple of speakers talking about the issues that they are facing and how they don't feel like they're part of the community. And this is one great way to offer people a chance to come in and sit down and feel like they are part of the community, and maybe that will help them feel a little better about themselves and feel better about where they can go once they get that sense that there's support around there. So,
Thank you, sir. Councillor Columbus.
Yes, I will support this motion because I don't see anybody else would like to utilize this facility on the 24th, 25th, or 26th.
Thank you, Councillor Columbus. Any further questions or statements from council? Councillor Huffman.
Thank you, Mayor Chop. Through you to Councillor Martin. So would you consider a friendly amendment to that motion? I'm just wondering about the grant piece, that we strike that it just be a waive in the fees. I see James' hand out of the corner of my eye. It's like a spidey sense. Would you like to speak to that, Mr. Johnson?
Through the mayor to Councillor Huffman and members of council. We pass user fee bylaws, and so therefore we can't waive fees. The terminology, and it's more of a housekeeping item, we have to charge the fee per the bylaw, so therefore we can't waive them. So what we do instead is we have a grant in lieu of the fee for the same amount, if I could, I wowould recommend to this group to apply to the, I believe it's through DCS now, Pam, correct me if I'm wrong, we have an annual application process for the waiving of, just using it myself, for the waiving of the fees, and therefore we'd be able to budget for it instead of after the fact, because right now we're maxed out.
Councillor Martin.
Thank you, Mayor Chop. Further to Councillor Huffman, this was just the staff wording through Mr. Cridland's staff as well as James when the motion came forward. I think it's just important to note that based on the historic nature of this event, that is why I felt as though it was it's a service that has been provided to community members in Norfolk County and Port Dover, and I would hate to see that stop, lose traction, and have a void to be filled. I do recognize that council wants to look at this and the process that we use, especially for new events in the future, but historically it has been provided, so I would like to see it continue.
Sorry, Mr. Johnson, so the grants are maxed out for the year?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So in the motion, so I forgot to mention earlier, if we can reword the waiving of the fee portion, because technically that's from a housekeeping issue, it's not correct. And as far as the budget that we have for grants in lieu of fees, if you will, we have a budget of $64,000. And there's a couple outstanding items that we're still discussing in closed session, and with those items, it would bring us up to that $64,000 amount.
I'm a little bit confused how we could be at 64,000 in grants when I don't believe already here in April.
Through you, Madam Mayor, there's a report that's brought to council, I believe it was December of 2018, and it lists there's an application process for this grant process, and in the 2019 budget, we had $60,500 already taken care of.
Right, but the challenge with this is, though, I believe that Councillor Martin went to inquire as to how to do this, and this has been every year, correct, Mr. Hughes? How many years? So do you have another suggestion then on how you would like that included?
Through you, Madam Mayor, we could treat this as a variance to the budget. It's a nominal amount, if council wishes to approve it.
Okay. Okay, so Councillor Martin, it's just the amendment that it will be treated as a variance to the budget. Seconded by Councillor Van Passen. Any further discussion? All those in favor? And that's carried unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Hughes. Yes, sir. Thanks very much. And you want to break for?
You can, the staff should be here at 4:02, so if you want to do a break and start back at 5, that'd be good.
Okay, so I think after this, we're going to be moving over to our public meetings. If we wanted to take a break now then for 15 minutes and reconvene at 5 o'clock for the public meetings. Does that work? Okay.
What I love most about Norfolk County, I think, would be the vastness of the county, how it's big and there's breathing space, and there are so many little pockets of beauty, natural beauty.
I love the seasons here. The springtime, the rain falling on the earth. I'm a farmer, so I enjoy those aspects of it, the smell of the rain. The summer times, we have beautiful, warm summers here.
You have such pristine water here. You have some of the finest cold water streams in Ontario with Big Creek and Young's Creek and others that produce great fishing.
Norfolk is very heavily forested, beautiful color in the autumn. The sun shines very brightly here in the wintertime, so I love the 4 distinct seasons we have here in Norfolk County.
What people find remarkable about Norfolk County, I think, is that our sense of community and us working together.
I think of us as a little bit of, we have these ecospheres in our store. They're these self-sustaining little balls that, completely take care of themselves. We're a little bit like that, in our area. We have so much here.
My kids grow up knowing what it's like to produce a piece of fruit or produce some food, some vegetables, and put them on the table, how much effort that takes. And I think that's important.
When people come into the shop, we pull out the map and we show them the wineries and the breweries, and we tell them about the local dining in town, and we'll tell them about the lavender farm, and along the way show them produce stands that they could stop to pick up some goodies.
Everything that we want to do socially and all of our extracurricular activities are right here. And when you join groups, these people they'll want to get to know you immediately. That's our nature. We're curious and we're supportive and we're interested.
Sometimes opportunity just kind of happens when you're talking to someone and having a conversation with someone here in Norfolk. The next thing you know, you're collaborating with them on a project or activity.
The amount of people within our community that support our business is outstanding, because it's a give and take relationship. If you support everyone else, they will support you, and it makes our community that much stronger and that much better.
I think that working with the local businesses here, everyone's very welcoming. Every time I meet a new business owner, and I love to go to new stores and new restaurants that open up and introduce ourselves and welcome them to the community. It's easy to fall in love with Norfolk County.
My advice to a family that's thinking about moving here is to come and visit. Come and spend a week. Come and experience everything that we have to offer, because you're going to find an amazing quality of life.
You're 10 minutes away from a beach. You're 5 minutes away from a dog park. There's so much opportunity in an area like this for young entrepreneurs, young families, even, senior entrepreneurs that are doing that as well.
I'm very happy. I'm lucky, very lucky I can be here, It's a good place to raise family too.
We don't have this sort of slick veneer over us. We're really comfortable in our own skin, and artists are making art because they love to make art, and musicians are writing songs because they love to write songs.
And just because you're not from here doesn't mean that you can't embrace what makes Norfolk great. Sort of our diversity, the wonderful landscapes here.
And it's just a great area. You're going to meet great people. You're going to have a supportive environment. We can compete on an international stage with anybody. And that's how we have to start looking at the world.
You just have to be willing to work hard, realize the potential that there is here, and just put yourself to work and create that opportunity for yourself.
I found that as a young entrepreneur, I was given every opportunity I could want. Just put yourself out there. Go to local events, and you're going to bump into all kinds of people that are going to be, important business connections to you.
Everybody's so willing to help somebody else out. I think that's the best thing about even being a business owner in Norfolk County.
We're a small community, but there's so much support here, whether it's a restaurant or ecotourism. We just have this appetite, and if you've got a great idea, you've got a willing community that's going to get behind your idea.
Some of the advice that I would give entrepreneurs coming to Norfolk County would be to think outside of the Norfolk box, but don't forget what's in the Norfolk box. because we have a lot to offer. We have a lot of great people, a lot of great opportunities.
Norfolk County.
Entrepreneurs grow here.
Norfolk County.
Ideas grow here.
Norfolk County.
You grow here.
You grow here.
You grow here.
On a strip of sandy soil lies a county called Norfolk. It's Ontario, south coast, you know, and it's surely not remote. If you pass through or spend a day or decide to call it home, you'll see why we love it here and are proud to call it our own. Norfolk, Norfolk, a southern county home. Norfolk, Norfolk, we know you can't go wrong with the friendly folk of Norfolk. You won't be a stranger long. Take in the small town atmosphere, be amazed at all that we grow. Like our kids that go and see the world and can't wait to return home. Drop a line in a placid lake or stroll along the shore. Take a tour on a peaceful country road and bound to be back for more. Of Norfolk, Norfolk, my southern county home. Norfolk, Norfolk, we know you can't go wrong with the friendly folk of Norfolk. You won't be a stranger long. With hard work we built a dream that only willing hands could do. It's on display at our fall fairs and at all the festivals too. Erie beaches, Carolinian forests, where the flower and dogwoods bloom. Patchwork fields and rolling hills, it's just the place for you. Norfolk, Norfolk, a southern county home. Norfolk, Norfolk, we know you can't go wrong with the friendly folk of Norfolk. You won't be a stranger long. Norfolk, 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 you won't be a stranger long. On a strip of sandy soil lies a county called Norfolk. It's Ontario, south coast, you know, and it's surely not remote. If you pass through or spend a day or decide to call it home, you'll see why we love it here and are proud to call it our own. Norfolk, Norfolk, a southern county home. Norfolk, Norfolk, we know you can't go wrong with the friendly folk of Norfolk. You won't be a stranger long. Take in the small town atmosphere, be amazed at all that we grow. Like our kids that go and see the world and can't wait to return home. Drop a line in a placid lake or stroll along the shore. Take a tour on a peaceful country road and bound to be back for more. Of Norfolk, Norfolk, my southern county home. Norfolk, Norfolk, we know you can't go wrong with a friendly folk of Norfolk. You won't be a stranger long. With hard work, we built a dream that only willing hands could do. It's on display at our fall fairs and at all the festivals too. Erie beaches, Carolinian forests, where the flower and dogwoods bloom. Patchwork fields and rolling hills, it's just the place for you. Norfolk, Norfolk, a southern county home. Norfolk, Norfolk, we know you can't go wrong with the friendly folk of Norfolk. You won't be a stranger long. Norfolk, 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 you won't be a stranger long. On a strip of sandy soil lies a county called Norfolk. It's Ontario's south coast, you know, and it's surely not remote. If you pass through or spend a day or decide to call it home, you'll see why we love it here and are proud to call it our own. Norfolk, Norfolk, a southern county home. Norfolk, Norfolk, we know you can't go wrong with the friendly folk of Norfolk. You won't be a stranger long. Take in the small town atmosphere, be amazed at all that we grow. Like our kids that go and see the world and can't wait to return home. Drop a line in a placid lake or stroll along the shore. Take a tour on a peaceful country road and bound to be back for more. Of North, on a strip of sandy soil, lies a county called Norfolk. It's Ontario's south coast, you know, and it's surely not remote. If you pass through or spend a day or decide to call it home, you'll see why we love it here and are proud to call it our own. Norfolk, Norfolk, a southern county home. Norfolk, Norfolk, we know you can't go wrong with the friendly folk of Norfolk. You won't be a stranger long. Take in the small town atmosphere, be amazed at all that we grow. Like our kids that go and see the world and can't wait to return home. Drop a line in a placid lake or stroll along the shore. Take a tour on a peaceful country road and bound to be back for more. Of Norfolk, Norfolk, my southern county home. Norfolk, Norfolk, we know you can't go wrong with the friendly folk. With hard work, we built a dream that only willing hands could do. It's on display at our fall fairs and at all the festivals too. Erie beaches, Carolinian forests, where the flower and dogwoods bloom. Patchwork fields and rolling hills, it's just a place for you. sandy soil lies a county called Norfolk. It's Ontario, south coast, you know, and it's surely not remote. If you pass through or spend a day or decide to call it home, you'll see why we love it here and are proud to call it our own. Norfolk, Norfolk, a southern county home. Norfolk, Norfolk, we know you can't go wrong with the friendly folk of Norfolk. You won't be a stranger long. Take in the small town atmosphere, be amazed at all that we grow. Like our kids that go and see the world and can't wait to return home. Drop a line in a placid lake or stroll along the shore. Take a tour on a peaceful country road and bound to be back for more. Of Norfolk, Norfolk, my southern county home. Norfolk, Norfolk, we know you can't go wrong with the friendly folk of Norfolk. You won't be a stranger long. With hard work we built a dream that only willing hands could do. It's on display at our fall fairs and at all the festivals too. Erie beaches, Carolinian forests, where the flower and dogwoods bloom. Patchwork fields and rolling hills, it's just the place for you. Norfolk, Norfolk, a southern county home. Norfolk, Norfolk, we know you can't go wrong with the friendly folk of Norfolk. You won't be a stranger long. Norfolk, 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 you won't be a stranger long. On a strip of sandy soil lies a county called Norfolk. It's Ontario, south coast, you know, and it's surely not remote. If you pass through or spend a day or decide to call it home, you'll see why we love it here and are proud to call it our own. Norfolk, Norfolk, a southern county home. Norfolk, Norfolk, we know you can't go wrong with the friendly folk of Norfolk. You won't be a stranger long. Take in the small town atmosphere, be amazed at all that we grow. Like our kids that go and see the world and can't wait to return home. Drop a line in a placid lake or stroll along the shore. Take a tour on a peaceful country road and bound to be back for more. Of North on a strip of On a strip of sandy soil lies a county called Norfolk. It's Ontario's south coast, you know, and it's surely not remote. If you pass through or spend a day or decide to call it home, you'll see why we love it here and are proud to call it our own. Norfolk, Norfolk, a southern county home. Norfolk, Norfolk, we know you can't go wrong with the friendly folk of Norfolk. You won't be a stranger long. Take in the small town atmosphere, be amazed at all that we grow. Like our kids that go and see the world and can't wait to return home. Drop a line in a placid lake or stroll along the shore. Take a tour on a peaceful country road and bound to be back for more. Of Norfolk, Norfolk, my Southern County home.
Okay, welcome back, everybody. Just before we get going with the rest of our council meeting, we have a special guest here this evening. 2019 marks the 8th occasion of Norfolk County Council's participation in the annual Mayor's Challenge. The Mayor's Challenge involves the reading of a poem to participating councils across Canada. Every participating community that hosts a poet laureate, from the city of Victoria in the west to the laureates in the Atlantic provinces, honors poetry during the month of April, which is Canada's official poetry month. Our own poet laureate, John B. Lee, will read a poem to council in honor of this occasion. The poem chosen by our laureate is called The Beautiful Debris, and it concerns the tearing down of barns on his family farm, and it acknowledges the sweeping changes that are occurring in agriculture throughout our province in general and Norfolk County in particular. So with that, Mr. Lee, if you would like to come forward. I don't know if you prefer to be down here so you can face everybody, up to you. That's perfect.
Duly introduced, so I will just read the poem to the council. Thank you, Mayor Chop. Thank you, councillors. Thank you, citizens. The Beautiful Debris. How like the coming on of a big wind, the iron ball that brought the home barns down. And in their wreckage, in that rubble of broken boards and stony ruin, the mow sagged, fallen inward on its blackening shade, as with an over-heavy harvest from the long-ago old forage gone gray-green, as with the darkening down of the light in the field on a summer evening. And this barn, built there by men of my blood, set on the land where it once stood, rising from first foundation to hip and beam, tall rafter and roof glory gone, the fenceless farm now bald as a weathered hill, with nothing further to say to the carting away of this beautiful debris. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lee, for coming and being with us tonight. Now I'd like to officially open the public meetings held under the Municipal Act, the Planning Act, and the Drainage Act for the purpose of hearing applications and proposals and affording any persons in attendance the opportunity to make representation to council. A reminder to those coming forward to, when you address council, to please state your full name and address when you come to the podium. I advise all those in attendance that the Local Planning Appeals Tribunal has the power under the Planning Act to dismiss an appeal to either a zoning bylaw and or an official plan amendment if the appellant does not make oral submissions at the public meeting or does not make written submissions to Norfolk County Council before the zoning bylaw is passed and or before the official plan amendment is adopted. I would also advise those in attendance that these meetings are televised and web streamed, and all items discussed are a matter of public record. The first item before us is staff report PW 19-20. That is the Langor Drain Enclosure Report for consideration. I'd now officially like to open the public meeting on staff report PW 19-20. And Mr. Dunn, if you could please present your report.
Thank you, Mayor Chop. Through the Mayor to Council, this report is to address a proposed drain enclosure of the Langor Drain. The request is submitted by a landowner within the watershed, and in this case, that landowner will be responsible for 100% of the cost to enclose the drain. Staff are recommending that Council adopt a provisional bylaw and authorize the drainage superintendent to proceed through the Drainage Act process. We have Brandon Widner, an engineer of Spreed Associates, here tonight to provide a brief presentation on his report of the Langor Drain enclosure. Once Mr. Widner has completed his presentation, we'd be happy to address any questions or concerns you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Dunn. Are there any questions of staff from council members? Okay, seeing none, are there any members of the public that wish to speak to this drainage report? Are there any, yourself, sir? If you would like to speak to the...
Through the Mayor to Council, Brandon Widner is the engineer who produced the report under the Drainage Act that's before us tonight. So typically what would happen through a council meeting is the engineer would provide a brief summary of the report for anyone. In this case, since the landowner is paying 100% of the costs, we can keep this short and sweet and not have the presentation, which will save the landowner money.
Perfect. So if nobody has any questions, we can move on. Councillor Van Passen.
Well, I did have one question, and it's to do with the bylaw on page 225. And the landowner is paying it all, but it does say whereas the Corporation of Norfolk County is contributing $77,700. Is that correct in that bylaw, or is that just the way it works that we pay it and we get reimbursed?
Through the Mayor to Council, typically what ends up happening with municipal drains is the municipality does take on those funds, and then we would assess that back to the landowner. This bylaw actually should be amended as there is zero cost to the municipality. Thank you for catching that.
That's what I thought.
Thank you, Councillor Van Passen. Okay, can I have a mover and seconder in that case, or Councillor Martin? Councillor Martin, a mover is going to move to close the public meeting, and seconded by Councillor Rabbits. All those in favor? And that's carried. Councillor Van Passen, would you like to move the staff recommendation or propose an alternative?
I'd be happy to move the staff recommendation, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Van Passen's moving that, seconded by Councillor Rabbits. And any further discussion? All those in favor? And any opposed? That's carried. Write that one there for you. The next is staff report DCS 19-53. That's an application that's being received to redesignate the subject lands from agriculture to urban residential to facilitate the severance of 2 residential lots in the hamlet of Cortland. In addition, a zoning bylaw amendment is also requested to rezone the subject lands from agricultural zone or hamlet residential zone. In order to proceed with the future severance, further relief is sought to reduce the minimum lot area in the hamlet residential zone from 0.4 of a hectare to 0.28 of a hectare. And furthermore, special provision 14.371 along with the holding on the subject lands are proposed to be removed. And the sentence is cut off, but I believe as they're no longer required. So at this point, I'd officially like to open the public meeting upon staff report DCS 19-53. And Mr. Vaughn, if you could please present your report.
Yes, thanks very much. Just to show council what exactly is happening here. So there's a physical feature in which there's a municipal drain located at the southern edge of the farm. South of the drain, there's lands that are not usable for agricultural purposes, and would make more sense to be used in adjacent with the urban residential designation. These lands are identified to be redesignated on the map here in front of you. And likewise with the zoning would also need to change from the agricultural zone to the Hamlet residential zone to be in line with the remainder of the Hamlet residential zoning in the area of Cortland. Ultimately, what would be proposed by the landowner and applicant here would be 2 new lots located just south of the municipal drain. This area over here on the west could then potentially be boundary adjusted through separate severance applications to adjacent property owners, but we'll see what the future intent is with those lands. Planning staff have reviewed all the policies in relation to the provincial policy statement and our Norfolk County official plan and find that this application is consistent with provincial policy, conforms with the intent of the official plan, and recommend refusal. Or recommend approval, sorry. If there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thanks, Matt. Any questions from councillors? Okay. Is the applicant or Councillor Columbus?
Yes, in the recommendation in front of us here, is it in fact Ontarian Inc. or is it Ontario Inc.? The number is 772520.
Sorry, I didn't.
Or is it a typo?
Typo? Yeah, good question. I double checked that a couple times, and according to our system, it's Ontarian, but perhaps the landowner could clarify that.
And then Cortland has a U in it too.
Yes, that is definitely a spelling mistake.
Any further questions? Great. Does anyone, or is the applicant or agent in attendance today? Do you wish to speak? Do you wish to speak to the application? Okay, you don't have to. You don't have to. Pardon? No, you certainly, if you don't want to, you don't have to. Perfect. You're good. Is there anyone else in attendance that wishes to speak in favor of the application? Does anyone wish to speak in general or against the application? And is there anything further from council at this point? In that case, could I have a mover and a seconder to close the public meeting? Councillor Geisens and seconded by Councillor Taylor. All those in favor? And that is carried. And would somebody like to move the staff recommendation? Councillor Geisens, seconded by Councillor Huffman. Any further discussion? All those in favor? And that's carried unanimously. Thank you very much for coming. Okay, Mr. McPherson, if you'd like to come and make your deputation to council. Just a reminder, you have 10 minutes, so I'll give you a heads up.
Mayor Chop and members of council, my name's David McPherson. Getting poked in the eye hurts. I operate a private consulting business geared towards obtaining building permits for homeowners, farmers, and builders who have found navigating the Norfolk County Building Department increasingly hostile and adversarial. The process has been made cumbersome and overwhelming, and the staff are uncooperative and confrontational. I'm here tonight speaking only in my capacity as a private consultant. The bulk of my client base is in Norfolk County, and this past Wednesday evening I spoke in favor of 2 applications at the LPRCA board meeting in Tillsonburg. 4 of you councillors, including the mayor, were present. My applications were approved, but staff did not word the approval the way I requested, and when my permits arrived in my inbox Friday afternoon, I immediately dashed off to the building department only to be told, with a smirk, that they are refusing to accept the LPRCA permits on account of the wording of the permit. They pushed back my building permit applications across the counter and told me to take them home. They refused to accept them. This project is for the construction of a new house on Lakeshore Road just east of David's Restaurant in Port Dover. I made application for a work permit to LPRCA April the 26th of last year, and made application for a building permit to Norfolk County May the 1st last year. The lot was created by the City of Nanticoke in 2000, and in 2002, Norfolk County Committee of Adjustment approved a minor variance to build the house 15 meters from top of bank. The site plan I created complied with the minor variance. The zoning, setback information, and minor variance information was provided by Norfolk County Building Department staff to my client's lawyer and then passed on to me. After we complied with this information, the building department rejected our site plan and said that the hazard land line had been moved and they would no longer honor the approved minor variance. I hired Tom Klein to render a legal opinion informing the county that the minor variance was still in full force. The building department, however, still refused to accept this. I then arranged a site meeting on June the 11th of last year with Mayor Luke and 2 LPRCA staff members to get their direction on moving forward with this project. To try and satisfy LPRCA and Norfolk County Building Department, in the ensuing year, I have hired 6 professionals to conduct geotechnical studies, structural studies, coastal studies, write reports, and prepare plans. I've retained an Ontario land surveyor, a structural engineer, a geotechnical engineer, a coastal engineer, a second geotechnical firm, the firm that actually wrote the regulations LPRCA follows, and a civil engineer, 6 in total, all of which have approved the location of the house and its accessory structures. To date, I have spent $150,000 of my client's money on these studies, reports, and plans, and I'm no further ahead today than I was a year ago. Between LPRCA and Norfolk County Building Department, hurdle after hurdle, stumbling block after stumbling block has been placed in my client's path. I am exceedingly frustrated, and I'm at my wit's end. This is not serving the public. The tail's wagging the dog here. Staff are arrogant, adversarial, and act as they have no oversight, are untouchable, and believe they are immune from council. The Ontario Building Code sets out time periods in which the chief official must either issue a permit or provide notice as to why he refuses to issue a permit. For a house, this time period is 10 working days. Today is day 232 working days since I made application. Knowing in advance that LPRC was prepared to issue a work permit, I asked the county building staff to please have my permit ready for the same day the CA approved my permit. I immediately received a notice of refusal to issue a building permit. Even though they had my application in possession for a year and had cashed my check for $25,000, their building permit fee, no one yet has bothered to conduct a plan review. This is not good customer service. This is exceedingly poor customer service. In my view, the Norfolk County Building Department is completely and utterly dysfunctional. I have other examples. I made application for a pool house cabana in Port Dover December the 24th. When I failed to hear from the county in 10 working days, I sent an inquiring email. The repercussion of that was to promptly get back a notice of refusal to issue a building permit on January the 21st, which was day 14. I responded the same day to their concerns and got a second notice of refusal to issue a building permit with a new shopping list of concerns. The permit was finally issued January the 28th, day 21, only after I made a call to the mayor's office. I submitted an application for a new barn November the 30th. My client is a large-scale vegetable farmer. After inquiring of the permit's progress, I got a notice of refusal to issue a building permit January the 7th, 20 days after application. The barn is designed by a professional engineer who takes responsibility for 100% of the construction details. County building inspectors demanded additional construction details before they will issue a permit, which has not been issued to date. I submitted an application for a small addition to a house in Port Dover on February the 19th, and 22 days later, after complaining to Fritz about the time delay, the repercussion was a prompt refusal to issue a building permit notice. I promptly responded, answering all of their concerns, and have never heard back from them to this day, nor have I received a building permit to this day. Another farmer had his bunkhouse not approved by the health department, yet needs offshore workers for harvest this year. He asked me to have the plans prepared to completely refurbish and bring up to standard his bunkhouse. I found out that a septic system had been installed to serve that bunkhouse in 2007 and emailed the county building department inquiring as to the size of that system in order to help with my design. The response I got back was that I would have to submit a Freedom of Information request, pay the appropriate fee, and attached to that were 5 pages of information on how to submit an FOI request. This is not cooperation, nor is it good customer service. I recently received a call from a farmer who wanted to set up a framing inspection for his building, but had misplaced his building permit. No problem, I said. I'll email a request to the building department for a framing inspection. What I got back was not, okay, Dave, we'll set that up for tomorrow or the next day. Rather, I got back a full-page lecture on how to book an inspection, what information is required to be submitted in order to book that inspection. It would have taken far less time to just write, okay, Dave, consider it done. This deplorable scenario is repeated time and time again. Virtually every builder in Norfolk will tell you similar stories. This is a barrier organization, and we need to remove barriers to development. They seem to go out of their way to poke a finger in your eye, certainly in my eye, and they take delight in doing it. I'm not suggesting that the building inspectors not follow the requirements of the Ontario Building Code. Rather, I am suggesting that they drop the us versus them adversarial approach and adopt a cooperative, helpful, and positive can-do attitude. Do not focus on scrutinizing every application, trying to find some undotted I, creating an aha moment to justify sending out a notice of refusal to issue a building permit. The negative attitude and dysfunctional approach leaves every encounter with the building department staff sour. Madam Mayor, Council, the good people of Norfolk deserve better than this. Thank you.
Thanks for coming today, Mr. McPherson. I guess I'm a little bit, I just want to ensure that you wanted to discuss specifically was the permit, I understood, to go along with the construction for the project that you just had approved in Long Point and the permit that was refused on Friday.
That's all hand in hand.
Okay.
I got the approval from LPRCA, though they did not word it the way I requested. The building department staff refused to accept it and have refused my application based on the wording in LPRCA's permit. I'm just exceedingly frustrated that it's taken a year and $150,000, 6 professional reports. I'm no further ahead today than I was a year ago.
Okay, I understand, sir. I guess the one thing I just wanted to perhaps ask Ms. Dusling was just, we raised this question at the planning meeting, and so we chatted about it a bit at Long Point when you had your presentation, and we asked specifically how we make a determination for construction on hazard lands that are outside of those items that are permitted. And I think the statement was made that day that if Long Point approved it because we were seeing some lack of consistency in the county, then the county would be following suit. So I'm just wondering for Mr. McPherson if we might be able to comment on the issue on Friday, or if you've got some suggestion of how to move ahead with this.
Through you, Mayor Chop, to Council and Mr. McPherson, thank you for your information this evening. Yes, that was part of the planning, primer of planning. I can't say that it's the exact same way for building information, but I can double check on that and find it out. I do know in terms of planning, yes, we look towards LPRCA, GRCA for that information. When they provide it, then we can follow suit because they are the experts in that area, as well as our policies in the planning area have some flexibility with hazard lands where we can change minor lines. I'm not sure, Dave, if that was the situation in your case or not. It sounds like you went to the Conservation Authority because there was something larger at hand. But we can get those details and connect with their building area and get back to you.
Well, to answer that, the Committee of Adjustment had approved a setback of 15 meters from top of bank. That information was provided to my client's lawyer by Norfolk County Building Department staff and then passed on to me. Apparently, at some point, the hazard land line was reconfigured. We were unaware of that. So I had to produce all of these studies in order to have LPRCA relocate the hazard land line back to where we wanted to start from. We have done that. We've met all of their requirements. And just give me a second.
Point of order.
I just lost my thought there, but.
Go ahead, Councilor Huffman.
Thank you, Mayor Chop. I'm a little confused in terms of the format here. It feels like we're having a direct dialogue between the deputation and staff, and I would respectfully request that we
I should have had Mr. McPherson
redirect.
have a seat, so
Thank
I
you.
will have him have a seat, and then, unless there's some further questions from councilors here, that was my error for asking Ms. Duesling the piece to begin with there. So, but Mr. McPherson, some councilors I think have some questions first. Councilor Martin?
Thank you, Mayor Chop. Through you to our deputation, Mr. McPherson, I do almost wish we had heard from you a week or two earlier because we did have a really informative planning discussion with our planning staff, and I did hear them say that for the most part, these LPRCA approvals, when they receive them, that carries over through to their department, and I understand that that's not across the board, but I'm hearing from you that there are a couple. So just to clarify so I understand your job, you're the person someone goes, is it accurate to say you're the person that someone goes to when they are wanting help because they're not familiar with the process through permits, et cetera, through our planning department?
That's correct. A lot of people find the whole process overwhelming, and so they come to me. That's the whole nature of my business, is streamlining that for them and acting as their advocate.
And so technically, you would probably make more money if you weren't here today advocating for a more efficient planning department. Is that fair?
Well, to give you full disclosure on that, I'm a retired employee of Norfolk County. After 35 years as the senior building inspector for Norfolk, I retired in 2012, was quite happy at it. 2 weeks after I retired, I started to get phone call after phone call after phone call from homeowners, farmers, and builders saying, can you help us through this process? Mostly because I understand the process. So I formed a business doing that. It's very successful.
Just a few more questions, if I may, Mayor Chop. So there's been a change, in your opinion, there's been a change in the planning department from when you were employed here to currently, and I'm just wondering if you could maybe, do you have any other experience with other municipalities and their planning departments through your business?
Through my business, I tend to work from Oxford all the way to Milton. Norfolk County Building Department stands head and shoulders above the crowd, not in a good way. And if I can can I respond back to Pam?
I think
My thought just came back to me.
we're just going to take questions from counselors at
Okay.
this point, and then perhaps we can organize a conversation for a meeting later on in
Certainly.
the week.
Thank you.
Councillor Van Passen was next, and then Councillor Huffman.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you to the deputation. Not sure how to phrase this properly, but do you think that this could be possibly something that is only like a personal kind of issue with your company, or how many of your colleagues or competitors do you think you could bring in here to tell the exact same story?
Councillor, I could fill the room with builder after builder after builder from Norfolk County to tell you the exact same story.
Councillor Huffman?
Thank you, Mayor Chop, through you to the deputation. Actually, Councillor Van Passen asked one of my questions. Just, so a couple of things. One of them was, did you feel that there's some kind of issue in particular in regards to your company? There certainly does seem to be an adversarial relationship here. But in all fairness, to staff, I mean, we're hearing from your point, right? So I do always like to get all of the facts and everybody to the table before making a decision about anything. And I'm just curious as to the urgency of this deputation tonight, as to what kind of brought this, you bringing this deputation now at this point in time, and with it being added at the last minute.
Quite frankly, I spoke at LPRCA's board meeting Wednesday of last week because this application was on their docket at that time. So I spoke expressing to them my utter frustration with both LPRCA staff and Norfolk County building staff, because I have been working for a year now to try to get a building permit that should take 10 days maximum. We've now spent 230 days on this and nothing concrete is happening.
Okay, so that is what the urgency is that after these over 200 days?
I don't know where to turn. I'm totally at my wit's end.
Okay.
Every time I try to move forward with the building department, there are repercussions for that.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any further questions? Councillor Michelli.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mr. McPherson, I just was wondering, you said you had one more question for staff. I think it was to Ms. Dusling. Would you still like to ask that?
Yes, it's not it's a point of clarification rather than a question.
Yes.
In Norfolk County zoning bylaw, there is a provision off the top of my head, I think it's 11.3, but I can't say for sure. There is an article that says that the hazard land line can be moved anywhere at any time that LPRCA directs without having to go through a zoning bylaw amendment through the county planning department.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Just to touch on the piece with the urgency, there is a statutory requirement to provide notification within a certain time period. So when Mr. McPherson spoke at Long Point, and Councillor Geisens, Councillor Michelli, Councillor Columbus, and myself were there, we're certainly beyond that period of time, and they're getting anxious to move ahead with the building permit. So that was really supposed to be the point of the discussion, was over